Ladies and gentlemen, they did it again. They outdid themselves from It Takes Two, and this is probably contender for the game of the year. The amount of times I said they really cooked with this one, didn't they? For every boss battle, world design, and side stories. Let's talk about gameplay because that's where it really shines. Like, I love the color design. You immediately know what to do, what to avoid, and where to go. Subtle yet clear design. And the difficulty is increased in this one compared to It Takes Two because the amount of time my sister almost pulled her hair out and switched controls with me increased tremendously from It Takes Two. Well, for me, I didn't struggle at all because it was such an easy game for me. The game is difficult in a sense that the boss battle and the puzzles are not hard to figure it out. It's just that the level of coordination that is required in this game is way higher. Because you immediately know what to do, how to defeat the enemy, but it's the call coordination that really needs to be solid. So you cannot just call the game unfair, but still it gives you that good frustration that makes you want to keep playing because you just say one more time and you just keep repeating over and over again because you think you can defeat it this time, this try.
Did I ever tell you what the definition of insanity is?
I dare say that this is like the Dark Souls of coordination because of the amount of timing and synergy you need to pass a puzzle or platform and to defeat a boss. This is quite a hard 3D platformer. It's difficult because you need to work together. Friendship will either improve or be ruined like Uno. Again, the coordination is hard. The level itself is pretty easy to understand and how to beat and how to go through. My only gripe with the gameplay is that sometimes the rules are a bit inconsistent. Because sometimes you can do things that you didn't expect you can do, and the things that you cannot do when you expect it to be able to. Although very rare, but it is there sometimes because we get stuck in puzzles sometimes and we were like, oh, we could do this entire time. We never knew. So maybe there could be better tutorial or pop-up message that help us to tell us that, oh, you can actually do this. But we can't really complain because the variety of gameplay you get for $50 is insane, which leads me to the world design because like I don't know how they can cook this much because for every world is a different gameplay and different world design, and yet it also reflects the character's personality and psyche, which is just insane because it just all makes sense. It just all works together so well. And let's not forget about the side stories because they really break the monotonous feel of the main story. And I like how they made it very obvious that there is a side story there with like a white light, and it's just very out of place design around it. And the side stories are really stressful or really relaxing, which breaks like the boring feel. If you were getting tired of the main story, you can really take a break and get a refresher once in a while, like in a marathon. Mind you that every side story has a different gameplay design, which is just mind-boggling, which if you take into account the amount of side stories there are. And I just like how they take simple rules and simple concepts for gameplay and yet they design around it to make it interesting. And I know that sounds very simple and duh, that makes sense, but it's harder than it sounds. And yet they managed to make it fun and varied, which is props to them. But what about the main story? I feel like the main story is not gonna win any awards, but I'll give props for really portraying psychology or therapy well in this game, because the premise is that the machine goes into the people's minds so that they can live out their fantasy. Now, not only that, but as you go further into the game, you can actually go deeper into your subconscious. And you know, I don't understand why the villain just doesn't rent out the machine so that people can live out their fantasies. Like, I feel like that will be a bigger gain than just stealing people's ideas. Let's be real here. I feel like it's a better version of Cyberpunk's brain dance because it actually goes deep into your psyche and actually reflects back what your mental state is like. And or even better, just if people have trauma or phobias or like tragedies inside their minds, and I feel like this machine could do a lot for people who need therapy or therapy doesn't help them, because like look at our main characters. The machine forces them to face their trauma and go through it, embrace it instead of piling it inside or avoiding it outright. And I can safely say that that is a better advice than anything the internet can probably offer other than a certified psychologist. Which leads me to the main characters, and I feel like the main characters will take a little bit more time to warm up to because they look one-dimensional in the beginning, but as the machine goes deeper and deeper into their subconscious, they really open up as a character and you realize that, you know what, that is very relatable. But at the same time, the developers don't really take this game very seriously because they are certified trolls, especially with the amount of things that we have to go through in the game, the amount of references for other game franchises and the jokes. It's just very silly overall, and I feel like they're really pushing the boundaries when it comes to the world design. The size, the scale, the vistas are just so much bigger, but the game runs fairly well. Like seriously, I don't know how they're able to make this a stable game in Unreal Engine 5. Speaking of Unreal Engine 5, this game runs fairly well. I'm running a RTX 2060, and while we don't get stable 60 FPS, it's still high 50s. Considering the amount of things to render, I'd say it's pretty well optimized for an Unreal Engine game. Although when boss battle with a lot of effects, decrease the FPS by half, although not unplayable. Also when changing levels, which is a quick and understandable thing, it does drop FPS, but I am happy to say that there is 0 bugs, 0 hard crashes. Okay, actually there is some hard crashes, but I don't know if that's my laptop that's not really holding up or it's the game. But for a game in 2025, that's actually very rare. And another thing to highlight is that it has fast shader compilation loading times. Hello, other game developers, what are you doing? If this game can do it, why can't you? Pushing forward gameplay design in this day and age. So in closing, I need to remind you that you need to find someone to play this with, but also I recommend finding a gamer as a partner, because if 2 non-gamers play this, I feel like they will have a hard time.
Tough time never lasts. Only tough people last.
And at least they have a gamer intuition and a high hand and eye coordination, because it is needed to go through some boss battles, some puzzles, and some level segments, okay? So for those people who are wondering whether to get this game, get it immediately. For those who doesn't have someone to play with, I guess hold off a bit until you have a friend to play with. That's it. Thank you for watching, and as for the next video, I don't know yet.